When I read my parents' will and saw they left everything to our cousin, the one they always called their real son, I quietly stopped covering their bills. A few weeks later, MOM texted, "Transfer the money for the mortgage." No greeting, no small talk. I simply replied. I was sitting at my kitchen table, staring at the neat little stack of papers that would change how I saw my family forever. My name's John, I'm 32, and I had just finished reading my parents' will. Every last page, every clause, every signature. And there it was in black ink. Everything, and I mean everything. The house, the land, Dad's classic car collection, Mom's jewelry, all of it had been left to my cousin Daniel. The same cousin my parents always called their real son, whenever they were feeling particularly cruel. I wish I could say I was shocked, but honestly, I just felt hollow, like something I already suspected had finally been confirmed. Growing up, my parents were masters at letting me know where I stood, or rather, where I didn't stand, in the family hierarchy. Daniel was golden boy, the pride of the family, the one they showed off at every holiday dinner. Daniel just got promoted. Daniel just bought a new house. Daniel's probably going to be a millionaire before 30. Meanwhile, when I graduated college, Mom literally said, "Oh, that's nice, John," before asking me to take out the trash. For years, I kept telling myself they'd come around. I worked hard, paid my own way, and even covered their bills when Dad got laid off. Every month, I quietly transferred money to make sure their mortgage stayed paid, their lights stayed on, and Mom could keep her ridiculous subscription to that wine of the month club she loved so much. It wasn't about gratitude anymore. I'd given up on hearing thank you. It was about making sure they were okay. Because no matter how distant they kept me, they were still my parents. But that will was a knife in the gut. Not just because they left me nothing, but because it felt intentional. As if they wanted me to know, once and for all, that I was just the kid they happened to raise, not the one they actually cared about. I sat there for a long time, rereading the same lines, wondering if maybe I'd misunderstood. Maybe there was a trust or a letter or something hidden away from me. But no, the lawyer was clear. The estate was Daniel's. So I did something that surprised even me. I stopped paying. No text, no announcement, no dramatic speech about how I was done. I just stopped. I let the due dates come and go. I let the utilities send their polite little reminders. And then one Tuesday morning, my phone buzzed. It was a text from Mom. No greeting, no small talk. Just, "Transfer the money for the mortgage." I stared at the screen, a dozen emotions fighting to be heard in my head. Hurt, anger, exhaustion. I thought about all the times I'd bailed them out, all the sacrifices I'd made to keep things running smoothly, and how they'd repaid me by making sure I didn't even get the house I was helping to keep. I started typing, then deleted it, then typed again. My hands were literally shaking, not from fear, but from years of pent-up frustration that had nowhere to go until this moment. I could feel something inside me shifting, a line being drawn. And then, just as I was about to hit send, another message popped up from her. "Daniel said you've been acting cold lately. Is something wrong?" Something in me snapped, not in a loud, shouting way, but in that quiet, dangerous way where you finally decide you're done being the family doormat. I took a deep breath, set my coffee cup down, and smiled to myself as I typed out a reply that would be the first step in a very different chapter of my life. And that's where everything really started to spiral. The next morning, I woke up to a string of missed calls, all from my mom. There were voicemails too, each one sounding increasingly annoyed. The first one was neutral, clipped. "John, call me back. Mortgage is due today." The second was sharper. "Why haven't you transferred it yet? You know how important it is to keep things current. Don't make this difficult." By the third, she was practically hissing into the phone. "I don't know what's gotten into you lately, but this is unacceptable. Call me." I just sat there on the edge of my bed, staring at my phone like it was some kind of alien object. A few months ago, those voicemails would have sent me spiraling, guilt, panic, the whole thing. I would have grabbed my laptop and paid the bill before I even brushed my teeth, just to keep the peace. But now, I just felt numb, like I was watching a movie about someone else's life. I didn't call her back. Instead, I got dressed, grabbed my keys, and went to work like nothing happened. But all day, I couldn't shake this low hum of dread in the back of my mind. Every time my phone buzzed, my stomach twisted. Not because I was worried about them, but because I knew this was just the beginning. My parents never handled being ignored well. Sure enough, that night, I got a text from my dad. Call your mother. She's upset. That was it. No, how are you? No, is everything okay? Just a command. I didn't reply. The following weekend, I went over to their house because Daniel was in town, and despite everything, I wasn't ready to fully cut them off. Part of me hoped maybe things would feel normal, that maybe we could have a family dinner without me being reminded where I ranked. Big mistake. I walked into the living room, and there was Daniel, lounging on the couch like he owned the place, which, technically, I guess he did now. Mom was perched on the arm of the sofa, smiling like she was hosting royalty. John, she said, her face lighting up just enough to register, but not enough to feel genuine. You're late. Daniel's been telling us about his new promotion. I glanced at the clock. I wasn't late. Dinner wasn't even ready yet. Daniel grinned, clearly loving the attention. Yeah, they finally made me team lead. Big raise, too. Mom beamed at him. We're so proud of you. You work so hard, sweetie. She'd never once used that tone with me. Dad clapped Daniel on the shoulder. We knew you'd get it. Always knew you'd go far. I sat there, pretending to be happy for him, but each word felt like a splinter under my skin. I wanted to scream, I work hard too. I've been paying for this house while you two sit here bragging about someone else. Dinner was worse. Every time I tried to contribute to the conversation, someone would cut me off. Daniel, yeah, at my company we. Mom, oh, that's fascinating. John, pass the salad, will you? Or, me, I actually got a big client this week. Dad, Daniel, did you tell him about your bonus? It was like I was invisible, just there to refill drinks and clear plates. At one point, Mom actually handed me her wine glass and said, top me up, would you? You're closer. I bit back the words I wanted to say and just did it. After dinner, we were sitting around the table when Mom suddenly dropped it. By the way, John, the electric bill came in. I went ahead and paid it this time, but you'll need to reimburse me. You know we can't let it get behind. I just stared at her. You paid it. Yes. Her tone was sharp now, like she was scolding a child. And frankly, I don't know what this little phase is about, but it needs to stop. We have responsibilities, John. This is a family home. Daniel smirked into his drink, clearly enjoying the show. Yeah, man. Don't leave them hanging. I turned to look at him, and something in my face must have changed because his smile faltered for half a second before coming back twice as smug. Dad crossed his arms. You've been acting different. Cold. Your mother's worried. I almost laughed. Worried. Not about me, about the bills. I just think, Mom continued, her voice rising, that after everything we've done for you, the least you can do is keep up your end. Your cousin shouldn't have to worry about coming home to a foreclosure notice one day. There it was. The first slip. I leaned back in my chair. So this is about Daniel. Mom blinked. This is about all of us. About family. No, I said quietly. It's about making sure Daniel's inheritance stays in perfect shape, isn't it? The room went dead silent. Daniel shifted uncomfortably, and Dad's jaw tightened. Mom's lips thinned. That's not fair. I stood up slowly. No, what's not fair is asking me to bankroll a house I don't even get to keep. What's not fair is being treated like a stranger in my own family while I pay for you to sit here and praise someone else. Her face hardened. Sit down, John. Don't make a scene. I looked at her, really looked at her, and realized something. I wasn't angry anymore. I was done. I think I'm gonna head out, I said, my voice calm, almost too calm. Daniel chuckled under his breath. Touchy. I didn't respond. I just grabbed my coat and walked out, leaving their stunned silence behind me. That night, lying in bed, I couldn't stop replaying it in my head. Mom's tone, Dad's crossed arms, Daniel's smirk. It was like they'd been waiting for me to crack, like they got some twisted satisfaction out of pushing me to the edge. The next morning, another text. Mortgage is overdue. Call me. And then another. Do you want this house to go into default? And then, finally, if you can't handle this, maybe Daniel should take over completely. He's always been more responsible anyway. I stared at that last one for a long time. My coffee went cold in my hand. Responsible. Always been more responsible. It was almost funny if it hadn't hurt so much. That's when I knew this wasn't just about money anymore. This was about respect, or rather, the complete lack of it. And I wasn't going to play along quietly this time. But before I could even figure out my next move, something happened that turned everything upside down and made sure there was no going back. A few days passed in this weird, tense quiet. No calls, no texts. Part of me thought maybe they were cooling off. Maybe we could let this whole thing blow over without another fight. I even started to feel a little guilty, wondering if I'd overreacted by storming out. Maybe I was being dramatic. Maybe they didn't mean it the way it sounded. Then came Sunday. Mom called that morning, and, to my surprise, her voice was chipper, almost sweet. "John, why don't you come over tonight? We're having a little get-together. Daniel's still in town, and it would be nice to just have everyone under one roof again." I hesitated. "Just dinner?" "Of course," she said too quickly. "Just dinner. We'll have your favorite roast chicken." I wanted to believe her. I really did. So I said yes. When I arrived that evening, the house was already buzzing. More cars were parked out front than I expected. Inside, I was greeted by the smell of food and the sound of laughter coming from the dining room. It felt almost normal. "John," Dad said, clapping me on the back when I walked in. "Glad you made it. Grab a drink. We're about to start." I walked into the dining room, and that's when I saw it. There was a cake on the table. A big one, with "Congratulations, Daniel," written across the top in bright blue frosting. I frowned. "What's this?" Mom smiled like it was the most natural thing in the world. "Oh, we just thought we'd celebrate Daniel's promotion properly. Isn't it great news?" I stood there, feeling like I'd just been shoved into an alternate reality. "You invited me over for a party?" She tilted her head, clearly annoyed at my tone. "Well, yes. You should be happy for your cousin. He's accomplished so much." I forced a polite nod and took a seat, trying to swallow the lump forming in my throat. The whole dinner was one long monologue about Daniel's job, Daniel's apartment, Daniel's new girlfriend. Every time I tried to steer the conversation elsewhere, someone would loop it right back. But the real betrayal didn't come until dessert. Dad stood up, holding his glass. "Before we cut the cake, we have a little announcement." I froze. "Announcement?" Mom stood too, her hand on Daniel's shoulder like he was the guest of honor at some royal banquet. "We've been talking, and we've decided it's time to make things official. Daniel has agreed to take over all the financial responsibilities for the house." My stomach dropped. "Effective immediately," Dad added, smiling. "We're transferring all accounts and utilities to his name. He's even offered to set up automatic payments so we never fall behind again." The room erupted in applause. I just sat there, staring at them. My mind was spinning. Effective immediately? They hadn't even told me. Mom glanced at me, her smile tightening. "This way, you don't have to worry about anything anymore." Isn't that a relief? A relief. That's what she called it. As if I hadn't been the one holding this whole thing together for years. But then Daniel spoke up, and it felt like someone lit a match inside me. "Yeah, we figured it was best to have someone responsible handle it. No offense, John, but it's been a little rocky lately." No offense. Like it was a joke. The table chuckled softly, like this was all so reasonable, so civil. I felt my ears ringing. "So that's it. You just hand everything over without even talking to me." Mom's smile faltered. "We didn't want to upset you." "Upset me?" My voice cracked. "You think not telling me was better?" Daniel leaned back in his chair, clearly enjoying the moment. "Hey, man, don't take it personally. It's just easier this way." "Easier for who?" I shot back. "For everyone," Dad said, his tone firm now, like I was the unreasonable one. "Look, John, you've been distant, and we can't have the house falling behind on payments. This is just practical." I stared at them, speechless. Practical. That's what they called it. Mom reached for my hand across the table, her voice soft. "This doesn't mean we don't appreciate what you've done. But Daniel is in a better position right now. He can handle it." And then, as if the universe wanted to twist the knife, Daniel raised his glass. "To family," he said, smirking, "and to keeping this place in good hands." Everyone clinked glasses. I couldn't move, couldn't speak. I just sat there, feeling this hot wave of shame and anger wash over me. It wasn't just about the house anymore. It was about being replaced, publicly, deliberately, in front of people who thought this was all perfectly fine. When I didn't toast, Mom's smile dropped completely. "John," she said sharply, "don't be rude. This is a happy occasion." I stood up so quickly my chair scraped across the floor. "Happy for who?" The room went dead silent. "John," Dad warned. I looked around at all of them, my parents, my cousin, these family friends who'd come to watch the show, and I realized something. They weren't embarrassed. They weren't sorry. They actually believed this was the right thing to do. I hope you all enjoy your cake, I said, my voice low. Because I'm done. I turned and walked out before anyone could stop me. Outside, the cold air hit me like a slap. I stood there on the porch, shaking, not from the chill, but from everything boiling under my skin. Humiliation, heartbreak, rage, all of it crashing over me at once. I drove home in silence, gripping the wheel so hard my knuckles turned white. When I got inside, I just stood in my dark living room, staring at nothing, feeling the weight of what had just happened settle over me. This wasn't just a snub. This was deliberate, calculated. And for the first time, I felt something I hadn't let myself feel before. I wanted them to regret it. Not just tonight, not just tomorrow. I wanted them to feel it. And I knew, deep down, this wasn't the last move I was going to make. I didn't sleep that night. I didn't even try. I just lay there on the couch, staring at the ceiling as shadows from the streetlight outside crawled across my living room walls. It was quiet, the kind of quiet that's so heavy it almost feels like it's pressing down on you. At around 2 in the morning, I got up and made myself a cup of tea, even though I don't really drink tea, and sat at the kitchen table where I'd first read the will. The papers were still there in a neat little stack, like they were mocking me. I pulled them closer, scanning the words again, even though I already knew what they said. Everything to Daniel. Every last thing. I don't know how long I sat there, but at some point I found myself scrolling through old photos on my phone. Holidays, birthdays, random backyard barbecues. There was one picture from a few years back, Dad on the grill, Mom holding a glass of wine, Daniel with his arm around my shoulders. We were all smiling. I stared at it for a long time, my throat tight. I remembered that day. I'd paid for all the food for that barbecue. Mom had told me I should, since I was the one without kids or a mortgage. And I'd done it. Happily. It hit me then just how much of myself I had poured into this family. My time, my money, my energy, and how little I'd ever asked for in return. Just a bit of respect. A thank you here and there. A place at the table, literally and figuratively. And instead, I'd been replaced. By morning, I felt like I'd been hollowed out. I went through the motions of my day, went to work, answered emails, sat through meetings, but everything felt distant, muted. People asked me if I was okay, and I just smiled and said I was tired. That weekend, I stayed home. I didn't answer calls, didn't reply to texts. I just let the phone buzz and buzz until it went silent. At one point, I heard my parents' voices outside my apartment door, Mom's sharp, Dad's low and stern, but I didn't open it. I sat perfectly still until they left. Later that night, I got a text from a family friend. Hey, are you okay? Heard things got pretty tense the other night. I stared at it, feeling my chest tighten. They were already talking about it. The thought of being the subject of whispered conversations over brunch tables made me feel sick. A couple of days later, I went to the grocery store and saw Daniel in the parking lot. He was laughing with someone on the phone, and I swear I heard him say, "Yeah, he totally lost it. You should have seen his face." He didn't see me. I got back in my car and drove away without buying a thing. That night was the worst. I sat on the edge of my bed with my head in my hands, feeling like I was back in high school, like I was 16 again, being told for the 100th time that Daniel was just more responsible, more mature, more successful. Except this time, it wasn't just words. This time, they'd acted on it. They'd taken my effort, my sacrifices, and written me out of the story completely. I'll admit, there was a moment where I wondered if I should just cave. Call them, apologize, beg to be included again, pay the mortgage like nothing happened, keep the peace. But then I remembered the look on Mom's face at that table. Not guilty, not even conflicted. Proud, smug almost, like she thought she'd finally solved me. And something in me hardened. I started cleaning my apartment. Not just picking up, but really cleaning, throwing out old junk, boxing up things I didn't need. It wasn't anger exactly. It was something quieter. Like I was stripping away the last bits of my old life, preparing for. I didn't even know what yet. One night, I sat down with a notepad and started writing. At first, it was just a list of bills I'd covered over the years, just to see how much it added up to. Then I started writing down memories. The Christmas when they spent twice as much on Daniel as on me. The time they forgot to invite me to a family vacation because they assumed I wouldn't want to come. The night Mom told me she wished I'd turn out more like Daniel. By the time I was done, I had several pages filled. I stared at them for a long time. For the first time in days, I felt something other than sadness. It was still pain, yes, but now it had an edge, a direction. I wasn't ready to act yet, but I could feel the first flicker of resolve, the tiniest spark of something that would eventually turn into fire. I tucked the pages into a drawer, turned off the light, and lay in bed. For the first time that week, I slept. Not well, not deeply, but enough. And when I woke up the next morning, I knew I wasn't going to stay at the bottom forever. I was going to climb out. Quietly. Carefully. And when I did, I wasn't going back. The morning after I wrote those pages, something shifted. It wasn't dramatic. No thunderclap. No epiphany. But it was enough. I woke up earlier than usual, sat at the edge of the bed, and just breathed. My chest still felt heavy, but it wasn't crushing me anymore. I started small. I made breakfast, a real one, not just coffee and whatever was in the fridge. I put on clothes that weren't just the same hoodie I'd been living in for days. I opened the curtains and